The entire movie is about Mike and Sully trying and failing to become scarers on their own. This movie could have shown the don't scare the teen and avoid the parent events in full, just like the first two events, but it didn't, since Mike and Sully don't really experience any character development from them. Throughout the film, there's a very clear theme of it's better to cooperate instead of compete when you need to achieve a common goal. Once upon a time, there was a boy named Mike. Every day, he aspired to become a scare student. One day, he is accepted into Monsters University. Once upon a time, there was a student named Mike. Every day, he studied scaring very hard. One day, he fails the scare final and has to quit the scare program. Once upon a time, there was a student named Mike. Every day, he studied boring and unfulfilling subjects. One day, he remembers the scare games and sign up. Because of that, he and Sully have to work together. Because of that, they become much better partners, until finally they win the scare games but are caught cheating. Because of that, Mike enters the human world to prove to Sully that he is scary. Because of that, Mike and Sully have to work together for real, until finally they power a door from the other side. Because of that, Mike and Sully are expelled from Monsters University. Because of that, they seek employment at Monsters, Inc., until finally they become the scares we see in the first film. While the movie has a lot of characters, you don't have to keep track of all of them, as there are large groups of characters that are interchangeable. Here are actually the characters that you have to keep track of, and there's also nobody else with a bigger role that's not on this list. Mike, Sully, Don Squishy, Terry, and Art, Roar Mega Roar, excluding Randall, Randall, and he's only important to the Sully-Randall subplot, not the main plot, so he could be lumped in with Roar Mega Roar, and Dean Hardscrabble. Mike has always dreamed of becoming a famous scarer, but in the movie he has to work with others and not as the actual scarer. In my opinion, the ending of the movie is a very good ending, as it reinforces the theme that cooperation is more effective than competition, and it is very significant for both Mike and Sully. Also, at the beginning, Mike and Sully did anything to avoid working with each other, and at the end, they want to work with each other. In the original version, Mike and Sully had known each other for years before going to university. This is because of Mike's comment in the first film that Mike and Sully had known each other since the 4th grade. The writers then decided that this simply wouldn't work, as Mike and Sully's rivalry wouldn't work. The point where Mike and Sully were kicked out of the scare program was likely a point where the writers got stuck, as Mike and Sully had to get back into the scare program to finish the plot. Here's what wouldn't happen next. A. Mike and Sully leave Monsters University, because they'd have an even smaller chance of getting into the scare program. Or B. Hardscrabble changes her mind, because that would go against her established character. This was released at a very good time, as the viewers who were children when the first movie was released are now in college and starting out in life. In point 8, it explained how in the original version, Mike and Sully had known each other for years. The writers tried several different storylines with this, before deciding to retcon Mike's line from the first film in order to make the plot of this film work a lot better. Shortly after the first film was released, there was a proposal to do a direct-to-video sequel, which was rejected, since there was no conflict that was explicitly set up in the first film, even though direct-to-video sequels to animated films were very common at the time. It would certainly be a lot easier if Mike and Sully could just get through the scare games without much trouble, but their opinions get in the way, making it take longer. This movie was created to tell Mike's story and explain why he was in Monsters, Inc., given that he isn't really relevant to the main plot of that movie. Mike refusing to work with Sully is understandable. Even though Mike knew it was his only chance of becoming a Scarrigan, he still believed that he could win the Scare Games on his own. Also, he knew that Sully would make it all about himself. Mike has worked his whole life to become a Scare, and the movie focuses around his only chance to do that. Plans for a Monsters, Inc. sequel had existed since 2005, and while this film is completely different from that, the idea of doing the sequel never went away. Mike and Sully had to take several final tests. A. The Scare Games, B. Powering a door from the other side, and C. Becoming scares at Monsters, Inc. There are no coincidences that get Mike and Sully out of trouble. While the toxicity challenge scene may seem like this, Mike and Sully are in the exact same position that they were before, and Sully doesn't undergo any character development. In fact, the scene could have just as easily happened in Mike's imagination. Also, the way that Mike and Sully get back into the monster world at the final act is the opposite of coincidental. This movie took the building block from Ratatouille, about two halves making a whole, where one half has the knowledge and the other half has the power. This film is about two halves making a whole. Mike has the knowledge while Sully has the power. This is highly relatable, as nobody has all of the skills they want to succeed in life. Mike and Sully discover while training Uzma Kappa to beat Roar Mega Roar and win approval from Hardscrabble that they work far better when together than when apart.